Chris is with the Renaissance Venture Fund, and they're having the UnDemo days, which I'm going to let him explain. So take it away, Chris.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on, Matt and Mike. So Renaissance, we're a fund of funds. So we invest in venture capital funds around the country and then work to engage them in Michigan. And so about 7 or 8 years ago, we started something called UnDemo Day. What we realized is that a lot of great things going on in Michigan, not always known by venture funds around the country. And we just happen to be an organization because we invest in funds. We know funds all over the country, really good funds, but we're also really engaged with the universities and the accelerators and the seed funds around Michigan. So we decided we would create an event that would bring, working with those local partners, find what are the 50 best startups in the state of Michigan that are going to be fundraising, and then go out to our network of funds and say, hey, we've got this curated list of 50 companies, and bring them together. So we've done it, now 8 times in person. Last time we had it in person, we had it at Ford Field. We had about 300 venture funds from around the country, and we had all 50 of these startup companies had their own sort of booth area, and they had a couple hours of booth time. But then where the real magic came in is we spent literally over a month identifying which of these venture funds that is coming would be a good fit for which startup company. And we set up a series of about 500 one-on-one meetings, 15-minute sort of speed dating meetings after the large booth area. And that's really what was the magic. And we started finding this became the most impactful day in venture capital in Michigan. Out of a single day, 15 of those companies would get term sheets for investments. And we found year after year, it kept growing. So, if you think about these venture funds, particularly those on the coast, they're investing a lot, but Michigan and the rest of the middle of the country are sort of in the shadows. And our whole goal is bring us out of the shadows. And we make it really easy because we've done a lot of the legwork for these venture funds. We've screened these companies, we've picked the 50 best, and then we've categorized them. Here's a cybersecurity companies, here's medical device companies, and really made it easy to make those meetings. So we do it twice a year. And our focus has been geography, bringing them to Michigan. And then, but for the one we're doing in April this year, which is virtual, unfortunately, because of COVID, the last 2 have been virtual. We wanted to focus on another group that simply does not get connected, get the attention from these venture funds, and that is women and other diverse people of color, other diverse founders in the Midwest. So we've created this event around helping identify great startup companies led by or founded by women or people of color. And then we'll bring in those same 300 plus firms and set up these meetings. These meetings just wouldn't happen otherwise. But our belief is we've shown that these funds, when they come here to the Midwest, they can make really good money investing in the Midwest, which is important to them. And they can see deals they wouldn't otherwise see. Our belief is it's the same thing with this group of founders, that we can make connections that wouldn't happen. And it makes the market work more efficiently, but it certainly helps these founders who just wouldn't get these meetings and are deserving of these meetings. So that's kind of our goal behind this UnDemo Day.
So how are the 50 companies selected?
We get submissions. So we have relationships with all the accelerators, the tech transfer offices, the angel funds around the Midwest, and they will all recommend companies. So let's say we'll get 200 companies that will apply for participation. We actually then go out to the venture funds with summaries of these companies, and we let the venture funds vote. Here's the 20 companies we want to actually see pitching on screen to all of us. And then here are other companies we would like to have meetings with. So I say 50, probably more than 50 will actually get one-on-one meetings. Because it's virtual, we're not limited in space like we are when we're at Ford Field. But certainly 50 are going to get the most attention from these funds, and we'll have, again, hundreds of meetings. But we're letting the market work. The venture funds are voting. here are the 50 that sound the best to us.
When I think of venture capital, I think of a lot of money versus angel investors. Typically, 250K, they might do less, more, somewhere in that ballpark. Venture funds talk millions of dollars. So the companies you're talking about, then these would be like second stage companies that have a commercially viable product, that sort of thing, or how would you describe them?
Well, it would be both, it's both seed investments and then more mature investments. So a number of the investors who come, they could be very small seed stage investors. So, the companies would typically have some sort of revenue to be in there. But the idea of them coming out of this with a $500,000 investment isn't unheard of. But you're right, more likely it's going to be companies that are raising $2 million, $3 million, sometimes more. But we like to have companies sort of all across the spectrum, from very early stage, but promising, to later stage investing.
So how does the event work in terms of when you did it in person, you had booth time and then sort of one-on-one time. How does that work with a virtual event?
Yeah, so we've certainly had to adjust. And so we will have 2 rooms where there will be sort of large group 5-minute pitches. So we will choose the top 20 companies, 10 in each of 2 rooms, and each company has 5 minutes to pitch to a large group of VCs. That's the replacement for the booths. And then following that, we'll have the one-on-one meetings that we will have set up, which will be one-on-one Zoom meetings. It's a lot of logistics in it, but it works pretty well. One of the extra things we're doing this time to help the startups is we're going to have coaching sessions. So Invest Detroit Ventures is actually going to be working beginning this month all the way through the end of April when the event is, and they will have coaching sessions to help get companies ready for their shot. A lot of work, but they've been a great partner in that. In addition, on the morning of the event, Ernst & Young will be having a coaching session on accounting issues facing startups. Foley and Lardner will have a coaching session on legal and intellectual property issues. And then Amy Sell Talent will have one on HR issues and how you build a team. So there's a lot of wraparound coaching to make these companies more likely to be successful in pitching to the venture funds and really more successful generally. Those coaching sessions will be available to everybody who applies, not just the ones who get the top votes. So there's a lot that's going on here. I should mention the event is April 27th in the afternoon, and we're going to have a special guest speaker. I can't announce it yet because we haven't 100% nailed it down, but it's going to be a good event. Guest speaker, followed by the pitch rooms, followed by a couple hours of one-on-one meetings.
How does a company raise its hand to say, yes, I want to be a part of this? Obviously, they have to go through an angel group or, a Spark or somebody like that. But how do they get that initial process started? So
what I would suggest, because the URL is too long, I would say if you just Google Renaissance UnDemo 2022, Renaissance UnDemo, UNDEMO 2022. First thing that comes up will be our UnDemo page, which explains some of this. Ultimately, there will, in about a week, we will actually have applications up where people can apply. We are telling folks, as you said, you will be more likely to be successful if you have a recommendation from a Tech Town or a Spark or Bamboo Detroit or one of the angel funds or seed funds, but we will let folks apply without it. But they'll be more likely to be successful if one of the trusted partners and all the major economic development and accelerators and all that, they're all our partners. So it could be, something like Automation Alley or just about any of them we've got some relationship with. So if they go there and they apply, their application will get read, and then we will go to the venture capital funds to vote on who gets to do the pitches.
One of the things I noticed about this that's very valuable also is that the people that are pitching get coaching sessions prior to their pitch, right?
Right, and that's by saying Invest Detroit's going to do an awful lot of work, but even the the Foley and Lardner and Ernst and Young and Amy Sell. So then again, that's open to everybody who applies, even if they're not in that top 50.
Well, that might be worth the price of admission right there, huh?
I think it will be. There's a lot of I've seen the work that these organizations do in helping companies get ready, and I think those are going to be invaluable.
Now, I know over the years we've had various sectors of these startup companies come and go, and things go in and out of style. What industries are you seeing that are getting the most action right now in terms of startups?
Michigan has certainly always had a strong biotechnology and healthcare sort of cluster. One of the really hot areas is cybersecurity right now. Michigan, a lot of people who came out of Duo Security or the old Arbor Networks, they formed companies. So we see a lot of investment going on in that area. General enterprise software is hot everywhere, including in Michigan. Mobility is a very important space, obviously, for Michigan. It's a pretty broad sector of companies we have that participate, and there's so much investment going on right now. Almost every sector is pretty active. All
righty, let's talk about, since you would have a pretty good 30,000-foot overview of this. Obviously, I came back to Michigan in the mid-1990s when there wasn't really much going on in private equity finance. And now, 27 years later, hard to believe, how would you assess where we're at? I mean, we're not California, we're not New York, but where are we?
Depending on how you measure it, Crunchbase came out with an article in the fall that said Michigan is the fastest growing state for venture capital in the country. And Michigan's had 3 straight years of over $1 billion in venture capital. To give you a sense, even when I started Renaissance in 2008, Michigan was probably at around 125 million. So pretty dramatic growth. And again, it's growth in multiple sectors. And what's happened is we've had enough successes here. It seems like every year we've got at least one new unicorn company worth $1 billion. We had enough success that venture funds are taking notice of Michigan, and those who missed a Duo Security or those who missed a StockX or a OneStream, they don't want to miss the next one coming out of here. This is still a very reasonable place to have a startup. From a venture standpoint, even if you just are looking at financial returns, Michigan's a pretty good place to do it from a financial return standpoint, plus talented workforce, more loyal workforce in other parts of the country. There's a lot going right here. I'm not sure even 5 or 6 years ago, I could have predicted the growth we've had over the past few years.
Well, and I did want to give you a chance to brag a little bit about UnDemo Day, that it's now an award winner. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, thanks. Yes, so we won the Michigan Venture Capital Association Impact Award, which is great because in the end we're a for-profit fund that's trying to do some good work, and it was really rewarding for us to be recognized by the venture capital community as truly having an impact on Michigan. And so that was a very nice award to receive. The other thing that's been interesting is we've probably been contacted now by 20 different regions of the country, hoping to replicate what we've done here in Michigan in their part of the country. Because our model that we created with Renaissance, where we're having truly a local impact, but we are definitely a for-profit entity and we're financially successful, that's something a lot of other places are wanting to replicate. And we've really open sourced our model. We're willing to help. So we've helped Cincinnati replicate this, Houston replicate this, Milwaukee replicate this, and there's another city on the way, where we think the more funds there are like us, the better it is for everybody.
So what advice would you give just anybody out there that's doing a startup or second stage company? Or better yet, let me ask this question. I think, what are we lacking in Michigan that you think that we should have that make things go even better? I think that'd be a better question.
So we've always had strong technology here. We haven't always had strong business leadership at the startup level. The biggest lesson that most startups learn is you have to figure out what your customer wants. You have to learn the market. I often tell founders, the second worst thing that happens is your technology doesn't work. The worst thing is your technology works and nobody cares. And that really is understanding that there must be a market need for a product and that you are meeting the requirements of that market as far as quality of the product, price of the product, and all that. So we've often, as a state, been technology driven rather than market driven. That has certainly changed for the better. We're now seeing from that leadership standpoint, people who were successful. They were an officer in LlamaSoft, or they were an officer in Duo Security, or one of these others. Those people who were managers there are now vice presidents somewhere else. Those who were vice presidents are now CEOs. And so in the normal cycle of things, we're 15 years behind Silicon Valley, but the normal cycle of things where you get a spidering effect that one company that is successful can lead to 10 companies. We're getting to that point right now, but I can't say we're all the way there. So to answer your question, we need more executive talent, leadership talent that understands how to grow a fast rising company and understands the market elements of things.
So Michigan is historically a state where we make stuff, we're a manufacturing state. What's the attitude of VCs toward physical product companies, manufacturing companies these days?
It's still tough. What is more difficult is manufacturing products that are at low margins. So if somebody figures out, with enough intellectual property, if you can make a product that's going to have 60% margins, VCs are fine with manufactured products. Software tends to have higher margins. So that's kind of what drives it is, VCs want quick growth and they want high margins because that's what leads ultimately to high either IPO prices or M&A values.
Okay, well, we're coming down towards the end, Chris. So one more time, have them Google this. I know because it's a mouthful to be able to put it in a URL. But what should anybody that really wants to raise their hand to say, hey, check me out, I want to be part of this, Google what again?
Renaissance UnDemo 2022.
All right.
And it'll come up there and they'll get to our page and it has an email address they can write to, but also in a week from now, there's going to be a registration.